It's time for Christmas joy and gladness. It's no time for jihad madness. So we should say Feliz Navidad instead of Allahu Akbar, here comes jihad. And we should all thank God, yes, me and you, that we haven't been blown into the clear blue. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again for This Week in Jihad. We are a little late again this week, so we're going to do Jihad from the 14th to the 21st so that we can come back at you Wednesday, all things being equal, with a full week of more Jihad news, just when you thought it was all over. And we have with us, ladies and gentlemen, the world's premier foe of Jihad.
Color commentator.
Dr. David Wood. David, how are you?
Well, as you know, got COVID. That's
Yikes.
Why, so everyone knows that's why we postponed from Wednesday. That one wasn't on Robert. That was on me thinking, okay, let me get a couple more days to see if I get over COVID. Did not happen, but symptoms aren't terrible. So,
David,
we're going to go ahead and try it.
I got to do it. You see? You got COVID because you opposed Allah.
The power, you see, the power of Allah. You've been talking about Muhammad. You ate the Quran. You did Islamicize me in Muhammad's boom boom room. And now Allah has punished you.
That's
with
it.
A very weak cold.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing. I got so much jihad this week, David. It's been a busy week for jihad. And,
whoa. Are you serious? Because I haven't heard a single peep about jihad.
Really?
Anywhere on any news station. So you must be making this up.
Unfortunately not. I've got lots of jihad violence. I've got a category, the ever-present women's category, the Iran category, the stupid infidels category, ever popular, ever busy. Shall we start off with some stupid infidels?
If you think there's a story that would qualify for this show, then you just go ahead and try.
Yeah, I know. It seems far-fetched. Surely not. Actually, the stupid infidel in this case, David, is me, because I can't find the stupid infidels. But I know I said a bunch of them aside.
You see? You were here to make fun of jihad. Allah punished you. One of you has COVID, and the other's confused.
Here it is. It's December. It's late in the year, ladies and gentlemen, but we may have a stupid infidel of the year this week. And that is Daniel Andrews, the Premier of the state of Victoria in Australia. Daniel Andrews has announced grants of more than $8 million to the Islamic community of Victoria, Australia, so that they can teach the Australians about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So, Daniel Andrews, it must be noted, is not actually a Muslim, and he is not giving equivalent amounts to other religions so that they can teach the Australians about their religions. It's only Islam that is getting $8 million. And really, here again, David, I do think that you would agree that we would be fine with this if they would let us teach the classes.
Yeah, or any person who's going to teach it honestly. I mean, if you were just going to sit down and read Ibn Kathir's commentary to them, I'd be totally fine with that. Let me put it this way. You have to teach only from classical texts, not from modern revisions. And I'd be fine with that. But I mean, come on, of course they're going to give money to that religion. It's the only one that matters in our world anymore.
Indeed. And, it's Australia, so I'll even start off the classes with G'day and a little bit of brekkie, and everybody will feel at home.
It's mate.
That's right. G'day, mate. Yes. Yep. Throw another shrimp on the barbie.
I come from a land down under.
I'll even have Vegemite sandwiches ready.
You know the song, eh?
Oh yeah, of course. I lived through the 80s. Anyway, Australia also. This ISIS terrorist named Neil Prakash. He was a Buddhist, and he converted to Islam some years ago, started calling himself Abu Khalid al-Cambodi. I guess he was a Cambodian originally. Yeah, Cambodian mother. Anyway, he was recently charged with terror offenses in Australia after he was extradited from Turkey. And all the headlines said, terrorist Neil Prakash extradited to Melbourne. Neil Prakash, accused terrorist Neil Prakash. Neil Prakash charged with 6 terror offenses. What's left out? No, not a single report called him Abu Khalid al-Cambodi, which is the name he would prefer we call him, or identified that what exact kind of terrorist he was. Because, of course, the Australian press, like the press all over the non-Muslim world, doesn't want to give anybody the idea there's anything wrong with Islam. And so when they have an Islamic terrorist, yeah,
Well,
you know
can't
the
report
deal.
it. That would be Islamophobic.
Indeed it would, David. David, in
Yes,
Germany. Yes, David. The show is coming together beautifully tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
It's Deutschland.
Ja, in Deutschland we have report. The vice president of the German Football Association, and of course you know they don't mean football when they say that; they mean soccer.
Yeah, they always mean soccer. Isn't that weird?
Yes, Ronnie Zimmerman. And he said that it is Islamophobic to criticize Qatar's enforcement of Sharia. Now, I think in a certain sense, he's got a point, because they knew what they were getting when they gave the World Cup to Qatar. And so they shouldn't be complaining about it and acting like Qatar ought to have been Rainbow Flag City and all that, when they had every reason to believe they were going to be enforcing Sharia. So, in that sense, I got no problem with Ronnie, but at the same time, it has to be noted that during the same week, Bill Maher, the famed leftist commentator on television, said, you see? You are coughing, you see? He said that
COVID got me.
That's it. That leftists are insane for not criticizing Sharia. So is it Ronnie Zimmerman or is it Bill Maher? And how are we to judge? Is it Islamophobic to criticize Sharia, David?
According to everything I've heard over many, many years, yes.
But in real life, in rational thought, can you construct for us now? You're a philosopher. You've got a doctorate. Construct for us a rational argument establishing that you must not criticize Sharia because it would be Islamophobic.
No, here's the weird situation. In the real world, everyone agrees with us. Right?
Indeed.
I mean, it's just amazing. We'll say, hey, we have a problem for Islam teaching this about apostate. Shame on you, you evil people, for criticizing that. Wait, there's my friend, the apostate prophet. Do you believe he should be killed for leaving Islam? No. Okay, so we're on the same page here. We both say no. You just keep your mouth shut about it. I just say it openly. But we are in agreement. So what apparently they really mean by Islamophobic is having a spine to say what we all think already.
That's true, yes. Because most people don't. Spines are hard to come by these days. They fetch very high prices on the black market, ladies and gentlemen. And most people willingly renounce the one they were issued at birth and take up the cause of Islamophobia. That is, being upset about it, as if it were somehow wrong to criticize the institutionalized mistreatment and discrimination against women,
Yeah, it's like
non-Muslims.
it's like they go to all your vertebrae and replace each one with marshmallows.
Yes. And then you see, you are a good modern individual, a modern Westerner, without a spine. Just like Mr. Loopner. Yes.
No, I mean, I'm sure you saw the woman in the UK who was just arrested because she was standing. She wasn't even on the same side of the street. She was across the street, was quietly, silently praying in her head against abortion, and police arrested her in the same town where things are overrun by grooming gangs and so on, and and it's just amazing. But I mean, think about that. It's the woman actually has some convictions, and they have to pounce on her for it. And it's like, if you have any conviction other than Islam, you get trash nowadays.
Yeah, if she had been praying, making prostrations and screaming Allahu Akbar, they would have made sure that she was protected, and they wouldn't have arrested her.
Yeah, matter of fact, that would be a good little test for the UK. Someone should dress in a niqab, go to the same exact spot, and just start doing Islamic prayer motions, and have a couple of male Muslims standing around and watch what the police do.
That's a good idea. I would do it myself, except, well, you know the story. Anyway,
I'll do it. I'll be in a niqab. Who's gonna know?
That's right. Man, that's an awful tall.
Like, that is one big woman there.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to France. And in France, we had the story of a man named Abdullah Ahmed Osman. And Abdullah Ahmed Osman is from Somalia. No, I'm sorry, Sudan, excuse me. He's from Sudan, and he now lives in France. And in April 2020, he attacked two people. He killed two people and injured 5 others during a murderous rampage on a street in France. And as he was arrested, he said, "Let the whole world hear that Islam is inevitably a witness. I testify that there is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger." And there was something else that as he stabbed the people, he was screaming, David. And I thought, you always have a good ear for this kind of thing. What do you think he was screaming?
I don't know. I feel like I've got to be wrong eventually, but I'm just gonna go with what works. I'm gonna say Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, I really thought that this time it was going to be something about go Morocco, win the World Cup, but no, it was Allahu Akbar. Anyway, he has been declared not criminally culpable because, you see, he's mentally ill. Now, he himself articulated quite clearly what he was all about when he said there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, and screaming Allahu Akbar, and what do we get? He's crazy.
And by the way, think about how their governments are manufacturing their own defenses for jihadis. In other words, like, if you really convince people that anyone who looks at the Muslim sources will see that it's a religion of peace, tolerance, and candy-coated raindrops, well, then if someone says he's killing because of this, he has to be crazy, right? You have to be delusional. If it's so obvious that it's so peaceful, if it's so clear that the Quran says if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind, and there's no compulsion in religion. If it's that crystal clear, and you somehow walking away thinking that you have to fight in the name of Allah, you have to be mental. It's delusional, right? It's like saying, oh, I looked at this math book here and it said 2 + 2 is 4, so I went on a killing spree. They say, oh, okay, you're crazy. Obviously, you're obviously mental. So same thing. But yeah, so notice it's by convincing everyone, police, journalists, politicians, everyone, by convincing people that Islam is so clearly peaceful and wonderful that only an insane person would think that it's violent. Well, jihadis also think that it's violent. So they're obviously crazy too.
That's it. Speaking of crazy, let's go to Sweden. And in Sweden, we have Maria Malmer Stenergard, who is the migration minister of Sweden. And she has noted that there are quite a few asylum seekers who go back to the country from which they are seeking refuge on vacation. And she has and she says, if you go back as a tourist, it indicates that you do not need the protection that you stated that you needed. And I think, wow, somebody ought to give her an honorary doctorate, because this is high-level analysis. But in any case, she says that these people may, and I want to stress, may have their residence permits revoked. But I doubt. What do you doubt? What do you bet, David? Do you think the Swedes are going to say, you go home on vacation, you're not a refugee, just stay there, or are they going to drop the whole thing?
Robert, telling them they have to stay there. That would require a spine. That's not allowed. Nothing that allows a spine is allowed. So just so everyone understands, right? Let me get this straight, Robert. You said this is Sweden?
Yeah.
So people submit their paperwork. They say, hey, I'm in Afghanistan. It's this hellhole. It's not safe. It's not safe for us. We're all going to die here. We need asylum. And Sweden opens its arms. Their hearts melt. Opens its arms, and it says, as someone who actually has empathy for other people would, they say, of course, if your lives are in danger and things are really that bad and you're all going to be killed, yes, come to Sweden. And then 6 months later, they say, okay, thanks. We really like living here. Now we're going to go on vacation back to Afghanistan. We want to go spend 2 weeks. We got to apply because we want to go spend 2 weeks on vacation in Afghanistan.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
and then so someone's just catching on, going, wait a minute, you said you have to get out of that because you're dead, you're going to die, they're all going to kill you, and you go there for vacation.
Something is amiss. Yeah. You got to wonder how these people, not only did they get elected to office, did they get appointed to office, but they can get out of bed in the morning and get dressed without help. It's really amazing. But in any case, more stupid infidels come to us from our own Democratic Party in the United States. Now, I don't want to be partisan. This is a family program. But this group of 30 Democrats, led by Senators Jeff Merkley from Oregon and Representatives Mark Pocan of Wisconsin, Mark Takano of California, and Richie Torres of New York, they were upset about the World Cup. And not just because it's not real football. They were upset because the World Cup was so mean to homosexuals. And so they wrote a letter to Gianni Infantino. Remember Gianni Infantino, the head of FIFA, the fake International Football Association? And Gianni Infantino is the guy who said, I feel Qatari. I feel Arab. I feel gay. Showing that he just has no clue what he was dealing with Qatar and Islam. But anyway, they've written to Johnny, and they are very upset about Qatar being so mean to homosexuals, and they never once mention Islam, the Quran, the Prophet. It has nothing to do with any of that, because they know, of course, that it would be Islamophobic to criticize Sharia, just as the vice president of the German Football Association has told us. And we must comply with his orders.
See, this is why I want them to have things like, the World Cup soccer tournament in places like that, because, I mean, how long can they avoid this showdown that's been brewing for so long? Right? They are on polar opposites on polar opposite extremes on certain issues. On other issues, like sexualizing children, they're on the same page. They all want to do it. Both the Islamic side and the political far left. And when it comes to crushing women, they're on the same page. One wants to do it by sort of erasing the definition of woman, and the others want to just physically abuse and oppress them, and so on. So that, they're on the same page on certain issues, but they're on polar opposites, and they overlook it as long as they have a common enemy, and so now even when it's brought to the forefront, even when it accidentally becomes international news, they still can't point to what their problem is.
I got more. It's really a big stupid infidels week here, and this is another one from Germany. Mukhtar N, who comes to Germany from Afghanistan. He settled in Illerkirchberg, and he participated in the gang rape of a 14-year-old girl there. And he was, of course, not deported, not jailed for any significant amount of time, not deported back to Afghanistan because that would be dangerous for him.
Yeah, unless he wants to go on vacation.
So they sent him back to Illerkirchberg. And he's walking around in Illerkirchberg, and the people in Illerkirchberg say, yeah, this man is gang rapist. We should not have him here. We are not happy with this situation. And the police are now protecting Mukhtar in Illerkirchberg. So he's a gang rapist, convicted, and he's got police protection.
Wow. Only the Germans, man. I mean, just think of it. You're only talking a few decades ago. These guys are walking the streets going, Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles. And now it's let's all protect the pedophile. But we got to protect the pedophiles. We got to protect the murderers. We got to protect the rapists. We got to protect the gang rapists.
Mm-hmm. That's it, man. That's where we are. It's craziness.
Notice all the stuff that they protect that you're not allowed to criticize anymore. It's like you have to be destroying all standards, because if you don't, then you would object to Islam, right? If you have any sort of moral standard, you would have to object to Islam. And so in order to keep people from objecting to, Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old girl and taking the wife of his own adopted son, all these things, you just have to completely just crush any moral confidence anyone has in any of their beliefs.
Well, that's just the opposite of what's happening. I got more. Anyway, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And so we need to have a few Christmas stories in here just for inspiration for the folks. And so in Spain, there is a video circulating. You can see it on jihadwatch.org. You can see it on YouTube. And you have a migrant from Morocco, and he goes to a very elaborate nativity display that was in Calahorra in northern Spain. And he takes a hammer to it and just starts smashing the thing. And what I found striking about the video, aside from the strikes he's giving to the actual nativity display, is that all these people are passing by and nobody bats an eye. They just keep walking. They don't run away from him. They don't even look at him. It's as if, this is the most normal thing in the world. Here's another Muslim destroying another Christmas nativity scene, and it's a Tuesday.
I thought they loved Jesus and Mary more than us.
Well, Ibrahim Hooper will tell you that, and of course, he is not called Honest Ebe for nothing. In France, we have another story of a Christmas tree that was put in the center of town of Lormont. Did you get that little French accent there, David? Lormont. It's not
say Mont.
Right. It's not Lormont. It's
just say when you whatever you say, pretend you have like 4 croissants stuffed in your mouth, and it just sounds really French.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that a croissant only exists to celebrate victory over jihadis. So they should be banned for being Islamophobic at this point. In any case, in France, man came up to the Christmas tree that the town hall had placed in the center of Lormont, and he cut it down. He took out his tools. He starts sawing away, cuts the thing down. And once again, nobody stops him. What was he yelling as he cut the tree down?
I can't believe he's shouting up.
Where did you have your money, folks? Was it on Allahu Akbar? In that case, you may have won a valuable cash prize. Contact Zakir Naik for details. In any case, so there's no more Christmas tree in the center of town there in France. Meanwhile, Christmas is...
By the way, can you just imagine that, right? Like you have your Christmas tree display. Some jihadi cuts it down. No one does anything. No one bats an eye. And then you have to, walk by this stump every day. And then, like, if you're going to have any celebration on Christmas, hey, let's all go stand around the stump.
The diversity stump.
Yeah, the stump that pretty much symbolizes our entire country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong country. But anyway, yes. The stump of diversity. The symbol for the 21st century. In Australia, good eye, another one from Australia, we have Wissam Abu Usaid Haddad. And he said that saying Merry Christmas is more severe and hated by Allah than if you were to congratulate someone for murder. Why would he say such a thing, David?
Yeah, there are videos of Muslim scholars and stuff saying that for years, that not just congratulating someone for murder, but they'll say that wishing Merry Christmas is worse than murder, because murder is just murder, whereas saying Merry Christmas is shirk. And shirk is the worst sin.
Because a murderer kills your body, but if you commit shirk, you're killing your soul.
And Allah.
That's the... Allah hates that. Hey, by the way, did you see, David? And really, I'm not prepared to talk about this. I shouldn't even mention it. But we can just take a little excursus. There was since both of us have spoken about this publicly, and I write about it in the Critical Quran, did you see that there was an Islamic preacher who says, yes, of course, Allah prays for Muhammad?
Yeah, that's actually old. People don't realize who that is.
Oh, yeah?
That's Sheikh Mohammed al-Yaqubi. That's the 34th grandson of Muhammad. I originally used a picture of that dude because he looks like Opie Taylor converted to Islam. You know what I mean? It's like Opie Taylor converted to Islam and grew a beard. It's like the whitest ginger in history. And this is Muhammad's grandson. So I use a picture of him to compare with all these passages about Muhammad being the whitest prophet in history. But yeah, it's him and saying how great it is to pray for Muhammad. I mean, even Allah prays for Muhammad, and so we do as well. And it's just this amazing thing where for years they can go around saying that Muhammad is so great that even Allah prays upon Muhammad or prays for Muhammad. That's how great Muhammad is. Even Allah himself prays. Allah and the angels pray. And so you Muslims need to pray too, just like Allah and the angels. And they can go around saying that for 14 centuries until we use it as an argument and say, hey guys, if Allah is praying, who's he praying to? Is he praying to himself or is he praying to someone else? And then suddenly, you liars! That's not what it says. That's not what it says. That's not what it means. That's why you have COVID. Ha ha!
You see?
Isn't that? But I've seen that over and over again. Like,
yes.
For years, you open up the hadith and it'll say, you have Aisha saying, he struck me on the chest, which caused me pain. And they're perfectly fine with it saying that. Struck me on my chest, which caused me pain. Go to the same books now with the new translations, he shoved me. And so it's just it over and over again. As soon as we start using something as an argument, they change it. They change the meaning.
Yep. Well, I didn't realize it was old. So anyway, it's just been circulating around again. I hadn't seen it before. Sheikh Opie, I'll have to look at him. Just saw the quotes. Anyway,
Hey,
who are
can
you?
we pray? Can we pray for Muhammad like Allah?
Yep. Who's he praying to, Pa?
And then Barney Fife comes in. Hey Andy, how about we go out to Mount Pilot for a picture show? No, I'm busy praying for Muhammad like Allah.
Picture shows are idolatry. This would be great. When are we going to film Muhammad Griffith?
That would be funny. They already did Little Mosque on the Prairie, so they like the idea of going back to those
Yep.
old shows.
All right, we'll go on to actual jihad. Muslims being Muslims, jihadis being jihadis, and couple of Muslims in Uganda heard Christian preaching and converted to Christianity. Arafa Senyanga and his brother Zulufa Hajadi Nakimuli. And they were set upon by Muslims who were screaming something. What do you think they were yelling, David?
I got to go with my gut on this one and say Allahu Akbar.
Yep. You're right again. Your streak is still intact. And they beat them with canes because they converted. I think they must have been moderate Muslims because they didn't kill them.
That's very moderate. I mean, when you said beat them with canes, I was actually relieved. Like, oh, good, finally. They didn't, kill them.
Yep. Clearly, moderate Islam is taken over in Uganda.
That's progress.
Yep. All right. In Nigeria, we have a group of Christians riding a bus on their way to a wedding. And they were kidnapped. Why on earth do they kidnap Christians on their way to a wedding, David?
Ransom?
Ransom. Chapter 47, verse 4 of the Quran says you can kill the captives, you can enslave the captives, you can ransom the captives, you can free the captives. That's Islamic law. It's a good way to raise money if you're a jihad group. You kidnap some infidels, and the stupid infidel political leaders will pay you money and never think twice about how they are funding jihad groups. In Indonesia, there was a suicide bombing this past week, David, on Java. And on the island of Java, where there's a great deal of coffee. And the Indonesian police said that there was a note that said that the criminal code, the Indonesian criminal code, is the law of infidels. And that he was doing this, he killed a police officer in the suicide bombing. He was doing this because he wanted to fight the satanic law enforcers. Now, what on earth did he mean by that? Why would Indonesia, a majority Muslim country, have a law that he would consider satanic?
Yeah, we've had that. We've talked about that before. If it's anything other than 100% Sharia, it's at best a compromise for them, and you can't have that. And so they have a problem with any government that is not fully implementing Sharia, and they've been taught that violence is the solution to any problem. And so you just keep attacking until they go full-blown Sharia.
That's it. And Indonesia's well on the way. In Morocco, a French couple was there as tourists, couple in their 80s, down from France. And they were in the coastal town of Moulay Boussalham, not far from Rabat. And they were stoned not in the ordinary way that Westerners are stoned in Muslim countries, but they were actually stoned with stones. And the woman was killed, the man was seriously injured, and then the Moroccan authorities said this was a mentally ill individual, an unstable person.
He was mad about World Cup.
Could be. But the whole stoning thing, where do you think that comes from?
So they're a married couple?
Yes. Couple of infidels, though.
Yeah, but that would normally be strike at their necks. Was this guy stupid?
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why they said he was mentally ill.
Yeah. Hey, that would be his defense. Your Honor. Your Honor. If my defendant, if he were in his right mind, would he have stoned these people? No. That ain't the Quran. The Quran says chop their heads off. Your Honor, come on. This man's obviously insane.
That's it.
We find him not guilty by reason of mental defect.
Yep.
Go to the mental hospital and study the Quran and learn what you're really supposed to do.
Oh my goodness. All right, in India we have Muslims found to have strewn nails all over the road on the road to a Hindu pilgrimage site. That's a little bit of Islamic tolerance for you. We hear a lot about Islamic tolerance.
Just so you know, when you're talking about and they beat this person for apostasy and they put nails all over the ground, I'm thinking, wow, that's messed up. But at least they didn't kill them. It's amazing how low the bar now is, right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, anything other than just slaughtering people in the name of Allah is not as bad. It's not as bad.
Maybe I'll call this Moderate Week, the moderate edition.
The moderate Islam edition.
Yep. In France, also, speaking of Morocco, after all this soccer that they've been playing and these guys were out rioting when Morocco beat France in the World Cup, and there's video, you can see it on Jihad Watch, of the Moroccans in France saying, "Long live Morocco, to the Quran," and not down with France, but something like that, a little less family friendly. So these people live in France now, David. Why on earth would they not be overflowing with gratitude for the country that took them in and gave them refuge?
Yeah, and why? They love Morocco. Why would they not want to be there?
Yeah, it's very strange. They left Morocco. I just don't understand it. Why would they do that?
No, it's just amazing that Islam does one thing better than anything else it does. It makes countries where no one wants to live, not even Muslims. And then so Muslims get out of those countries as fast as they can and go anywhere else in the world. And then as soon as they get there, they want the country run by Islam, which does nothing but make places where no one wants to live. And it's doing a great job as people are trying to conform to the demands of people who want to slaughter them in the name of Allah. Western countries are becoming places where no one wants to live.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon the entire world will be one big place where no one wants to live. And then maybe Elon Musk is behind this because he wants to colonize Mars. This would be brilliant. This would be like next level plotting right here.
Talk about 4D chess, ladies and gentlemen. Well, they invented chess, you know. Anyway, somebody pointed out
algebra.
Yes. And alcohol. They don't talk about that one too much, but it's the same kind of thing as algebra. A verbal resonance is what I mean. Anyway, France beat Morocco, not Morocco beat France. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't really follow soccer. Dr. Nasser Al-Karam, who is the head of the Sharia Court of Appeals in Nablus, that is among the Palestinians in the West Bank, he said, "I would like to end with our pure martyrs who have attained the highest level of Islam. As you know, the pinnacle of Islam is jihad for the sake of Allah. The martyrs have attained the highest level of Islam. Jihad for the sake of Allah. Now, surely he means getting the kids to school on time, right, David? But then you go on, he says, they have made a profitable deal with Allah. Allah has purchased from the believers their lives and their properties. In exchange for that, they will have paradise. And what is the price?
That sounds exactly like Surah 9, verse 111 of the Quran.
Why, you're right, David. And he goes on to say, they fight for the sake of Allah, they kill and get killed. And then he adds, this war is ongoing. So he's obviously means jihad is warfare. And he says it's the highest level of Islam, and it has to do with killing. How did he misunderstand Islam so badly?
Well, to be fair to him, the Quran really, really, really makes it sound like that, right? So you have Surah 9. You have Surah 9, of course, and then you have, Surah 9, 29, Surah 9, 73, Surah 9, 123, and they all talk about either fighting or waging jihad against unbelievers and even against hypocrites, Muslims who are claiming to be Muslims but aren't really. So they talk about fighting, and I've actually seen over and over and over again for years. I'll point out, but right here, 929, it says, fight those who do not believe in Allah. And Muslims will say, but what does it mean to fight? It just can mean fighting verbally through argumentation and debate. And you just drew attention to the problem. Surah 9, verse 111, same chapter, defines what fighting means. It means slaying and getting slain. You keep killing until you get killed. This is the bargain that he's made. So it defines what it means to fight in the way of Allah.
You see?
So if you just, see, if
I
you
have killed all your arguments. I have slain.
And slaughtered them in the name of Allah. Raped their wives of your arguments. And enslaved the children of your
That's it.
Think of this. This is like, it's like it's either they're saying something horrible or they have to be deceiving. So, again, with the, it says fight, but maybe it just means through debating. And Allah himself defines what it means to fight in Allah's cause, and involves killing. And then if someone mentions that, he sounds like a crazy person, even though he's literally reading words off a page.
Yeah, I'd like to see somebody go to Nablus and talk to Dr. Nasser al-Karam and explain to him how he's misunderstanding Islam. One of the moderates in the West who is always telling us that it's really all about peace really ought to go over there and explain to him how he can get right about Islam.
Maybe honest Ibe Hooper.
Yeah, maybe he could be the guy. He's looking good. He had his stomach stapled and he's looking very svelte. Maybe it's time that he takes that trip over there, sets those boys straight. Anyway, there's plenty more. Let's see. In Germany, our friend Michael Sturzenberger has once again been attacked. He was struck by a Muslim. There's video in Jihad Watch of Michael Sturzenberger in Bonn, home of Ludwig van Beethoven, and he was discussing contested issues with this Muslim, who then, in front of all these cops, felt free to slug him. Turned out that the guy was a, I think, mixed martial arts fighter, some kind of athlete, in any case. So he hit him pretty hard, and obviously feels like he can act with impunity in front of the German police, which is interesting enough. All right, we have, David, let's see. In the women's section, we have in India, one of these stories very common. A Muslim poses as a Hindu, rapes and harasses a Hindu woman, finally reveals that he's a Muslim and pressures her to convert to Islam. Why does he feel necessary to do that? Why does he pose as a Hindu instead of just being who he is and presenting himself and saying, let us get married, even as I am a Muslim and you're a Hindu? Why is that? Why can't he do that?
He wouldn't be allowed to marry a Hindu, and so when that happens, you just rely on deception. And we know, of course, from the story of Cobb that you can use deception in order to further the aims of Islam. So I mean, it's pure evil. It's pure evil, but they do come up with brilliant ways to exploit the system.
Indeed. Indeed. In Spain, a migrant from, let me see where he's from, Pakistan. A migrant from Pakistan was arrested because he was trying to get his 19-year-old daughter to go back to Pakistan with him in order to marry a much older gentleman that he had picked out to be her husband. She didn't want to go. And the Spanish authorities have arrested him for this. But imagine their surprise when they find out that this sort of thing is, I think, quite a bit more common than they probably expect.
Yeah, a lot of the honor killing cases we've heard of over the years had to do with fathers wanting to force their daughters into an arranged marriage and them not wanting to, and then fathers just killing because you have to set an example for your other daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And for the rest of society.
And cleanse the honor from that's been cleanse the dishonor that has stained your family. In India, we had another honor killing. Muslim gentleman in India whose name was Sadiq in Mushirabad. He killed his daughter because she was talking on the phone too much. Constantly on the phone. And I think, well, she must have been a teenage girl, but apparently he thought that was out of line for her duties as a daughter, perhaps as a prospective wife. Who knows who she was talking to, and all that.
They are concerned. A lot of people are concerned about the influences and so on. And let me just give you a quotation from, are you familiar with Daniel Hakikachu, Robert?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so Daniel, someone sent it to me on Twitter, but it was after, he doesn't mention, I only saw this, I don't know what he's actually posting on Telegram, but this is after Afghanistan said it's banning women from attending college and so on, mm-hmm. And Daniel Hakikachu posted, so keep in mind, this is an American Muslim posting from America, and he says, if you say yes to college for women, you are essentially saying yes to your granddaughter on OnlyFans. The college to OnlyFans societal pipeline is just a mere matter of decades. So this is Daniel Hakikachu saying, hey, if you let your daughters go to college, then you're basically telling them to go become webcam girls, I guess for Andrew Tate. So I don't know why it would be a problem, right? Anyway, but notice the similarity. It's if you want to go to college, I have to kill you because you're if I don't, you're just going to be an OnlyFans girl. And then you're talking on the phone all the time when I told you not to. This is going to lead you to become an OnlyFans. I just need to kill you and get it over with. So and we criticize it. We're the bad guys.
Well, it's just absurd. He seems to be conflating a healthy society with the society that we have now, acting as if it was inevitable that society take this trajectory, when actually the Christianity for which he has so much contempt, if it had not been discarded by Western society, then you wouldn't be seeing OnlyFans and this kind of thing. But in any case, these distinctions are lost upon such people. In Sudan, we have a woman who has been charged with adultery, and her death sentence was commuted. She will instead spend 6 months in prison because she admitted to kissing a man. In Germany, a migrant from Afghanistan. Where do you think he stabbed his wife, David?
I'm going to go with neck on this one.
You are correct, sir. He slit her throat because of her independent lifestyle. So if you want to argue like Daniel Hakikaju, you could say hijab leads inevitably to stabbing your wife in the throat for her independent lifestyle. And it's just a matter of decades. And Daniel Hakikaju would be entirely justified to say, well, that's not necessarily so at all. You can have plenty of people who live their lives wearing hijab and they never get stabbed in the throat for an independent lifestyle. And that's a perfectly reasonable argument. But if it is, then his argument for college leading to OnlyFans is likewise in tatters. The critique about Islam's treatment of women is not and should not be based on these extreme examples. But certainly when you allow for the beating of disobedient women, you're opening the door to this kind of thing. And he was speechless, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, every time you point out the wife beating part, I point out that it's easy to justify the killing part because you can consider them apostates.
Yeah.
And Muhammad said in Sunan Ibn Majah, carry out Allah's punishments even against your own family members.
Well, there you go.
And so you've got these guys and people don't. I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm hoping that this doesn't become more common, but it's so easy to justify. Surah 4, verse 65 of the Quran says you have to submit to all of Muhammad's decisions, and if you don't, you have no real faith. You're not a real Muslim.
So actually, David, I have to stand corrected on this. You're absolutely right. The argument that the hijab leads to this kind of bloody murder is actually much stronger than the argument that women in college leads to OnlyFans, because it's supported at every step, in every detail, by actual explicit Islamic texts, whereas what Daniel Hakikaju is doing vis-a-vis Western society is just extrapolating from the current decay of that society in order to arrive at spurious basic principles.
Mm-hmm.
In Switzerland, there was a gentleman who he was screaming a certain slogan. David, I guess everybody knows which one at this point. Maybe we'll have to retire this bit, but
we've
anyway,
all become prophet.
Yes, he explained he's on trial now because he killed this man while he was screaming, "This is MAGA country." I mean, Allahu Akbar. And he said he wanted to punish Switzerland. Now note that Switzerland took him in. Switzerland gave him refuge. Why did he want to punish Switzerland, David?
For being a bunch of unbelievers or something?
I think you're onto something on that. I think you've really hit something there. That there's just nothing that Switzerland could do to win over his heart and mind. And the Swiss will be the most stunned about this because they assume that the people that they take in are going to be grateful. And they're going to think, we love you now, yes?
And it's weird, isn't it? Because that's what you'd expect. And that's true. That's true. Your average immigrant to, let's say, the United States. Now, it's getting weird now, so I don't know what people think now. They might have said, what did I get myself into? But historically, I mean, immigrants had a lot of appreciation for the country that would take them in, especially people who have to actually flee and get asylum in another country. They come from, horrible war zones and stuff like that. And then they come to a different country that takes them in, and they're usually extremely grateful. And to be fair, there are Muslims who aren't like that and who do appreciate, the countries that take them in and so on. But there is this extremely disturbing group of people who they immigrate. The country takes them in from a Sharia compliant hellhole that they come from, and they absolutely despise the country. And this isn't just random people. I mean, Ilhan Omar's like this. I mean, she ended up in a refugee camp in Kenya from Somalia, So Somalia was a Sharia compliant hellhole. Then she goes to a refugee camp, which was no picnic. Then the United States takes her in. She becomes a congresswoman and absolutely despises the country that took her out of the refugee camp and made her one of the leaders of the country.
Only Islam could explain this. And it's the one thing people don't want to look at. We're running out of time. Got to hit the Islamic Republic of Iran. The demonstrations are still going on there. The regime is deeply threatened, but there have been a couple of sidelight stories that were very interesting. One was Nika Nakubin. You remember Nika Nakubin, David?
No.
Nika Nakubin is a college student, probably very much like what you were just describing in relation to Ilhan Omar. She was born in Iran. She came over here. She's in college. She's very angry with America and thinks Americans need to be punished because of the drone killing of Qasem Soleimani, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps commander, in an American strike in 2020 in Baghdad. And so, a few months ago, she met a man in Las Vegas on a dating site, a dating app or something. And they are in a hotel room. She suddenly starts to stab him in the throat. Once again, we see, of course, when you meet the unbelievers, strike the next. That's in the Quran. He was totally shocked because, he thought he's making out with this girl, and then suddenly she's stabbing him in the neck. It's just not what you'd expect. But she explained that she was doing this to avenge Soleimani. Now, this happened a few months ago, but it was in the news again this past week because she admitted to the crime, and video was released of her being interviewed by a policeman right after the event and explaining that she needed to take revenge for Soleimani.
Now, that's interesting because this is reverse love jihad. You know what I mean?
Reverse
love
jihad.
We've heard about the love jihad where the guy, the guy seduces a woman and gets her to, forces her to convert or something like that. But now you've got a woman using, using hookup spots to go slaughter in the name of Allah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just shows, get married. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go to hotel rooms with some stranger you met on a dating app.
And
but anyway,
when he says get married, he's not talking about temporary marriage, all you mutta freaks out there.
Yeah, she's a Shiite from Iran. Maybe she signed the paper and, they were
she's
married.
Probably typing that, oh, it's okay, I can do mutta.
All right. Interesting sidelight out of Iran, also out of the demonstrations. They've started to execute the protesters. They're still committed to the idea of striking terror in the enemies of Allah. They want to terrorize the population into submission. And interesting that one of the people that they executed, a young man named Majid Reza Rahnavard, he directed his friends, do not read the Quran at my funeral. And I thought, now that's interesting because that's an indication yet again, these people are thoroughly, after 40 years of the Islamic Republic, they're thoroughly disgusted with Islam and they don't want it around. And they associate Islam with the regime, which is entirely reasonable. I've seen Islamic apologists in the West say, oh, they call themselves the Islamic Republic, but they're not. But the people of Iran know better. They're very much an Islamic Republic.
And this is just amazing because it's this happened with ISIS too. It's whenever people see real Islam in all its blood-spattered glory, they're like, I can't believe in this. I can't believe in this. Instead, they get this, they get this watered-down, whitewashed version where, it's just the worship of one God. And then people, okay, yeah, I'll sign up for that. But when they see what it actually is, they find it absolutely detestable.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was just on Twitter earlier today. I saw this professor at Oxford, a guy who should know better, and he says, can you give me arguments for and against Christianity and Islam? And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I read down a little bit into the comments, and he adds, yeah, I'm leaning toward converting to Islam, but I just wanted to see what you people thought. And many people were in the comments there telling him, oh, it's just the worship of one God. It's the most rational of the religions. And he's in for it if he says the Shahada, but he'll find out sooner or later.
Well, it is an easy way to quick fame.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Oxford professor, he would immediately be on the front lines of the dawah.
Mm-hmm. And they will run around the world proclaiming him as the new poster boy. And see, yes. It's Andrew Tate. We've got Andrew Tate. We've got Sinead O'Connor. And now this professor, you see, they're all seeing the power and wisdom of Allah.
That's it. Okay, let's close with one that I thought of you, David, when I saw this. Also in Iran, a Sunni cleric. Now the Sunnis are a small minority in Iran. He reported the rape of a 15-year-old girl by a policeman. And he has now been summoned to court. Not the policeman who's accused of rape, but the Sunni cleric who reported the crime. And I thought, well, that's the story of our lives, isn't it? We don't do these jihads. We just report on them, and then we're the ones that are vilified and demonized and smeared for reporting on these activities by people who never said a word about the activities themselves.
Yep, shame on anyone who actually reports what's happening.
That's it. But we do it here, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be doing it again, God willing, next week. But in the meantime, Sunday, the 25th, the Virgin gives birth to the transcendent in essence. I hope you will pause on that day and count your blessings, be grateful, and remember that we only know that jihad is evil because there is overwhelming good in the world to help us to compare it. Otherwise, it would just be the way things are. And so we stand and oppose jihad because of the great goodness that dawned upon the world that we will recognize again on Sunday. So, stop and take a minute then. Come back and see us Wednesday. We will do our best to be here. And I'm sure the jihadis will be doing their best to give us material to talk about. David, thank you again. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and God bless you all.